100 years of skincare. That's 1 century of advancements in science, medicine, and vanity. And are we actually worse off? Let's find out. Throughout history, we have been fascinated by the idea of staying young forever and how we can delay these effects of aging. And this fascination is global, going beyond cultural, geographical, financial, and social boundaries. Anyway, let's have a look into how far we've come, and I'll also give you a glimpse into how and if it's possible to get this eternal youth and how it may be achieved in the near future. Because like I said, advancements in science, medicine, and technology into how to get a more youthful look are becoming more and more possible as time goes on. So let's start in the 1920s. Alright, we're in the 1920s now. Yep, this is it. We've got sliced bread now. We don't have something called the Spanish flu anymore. We also don't have Uber and Spotify rap. But oh boy, are we in for a treat with this 1920s skincare. So during this period, the 1920s, also known as the Roaring 20s, people went from, sun avoiders to sun worshippers. And by that, I mean they would sit outside as if they were grapes and absorb the sun until they became raisins. And this was actually all due to Coco Chanel, who did have a tan look, and her tan look really impacted the world and was very appealing to the people who looked at her and idealized her. And let's be real, if it wasn't her who was going to do this, it was going to be someone else who was going to start it, who had a big influence and impact on the world. And by coincidence, I think not, rapid aging, skin cancer, and hyperpigmentation would have become a big prominent issue in the society at the time as well. But before this, for a lot of people, pale skin was actually the desired type of skin tone. And this wasn't just, wearing hats, sunglasses, and, shade when you're outside, but they took it one step further. And can you guess? Maybe talc, chalk, some sort of makeup cover? No, it was just arsenic. Specifically, arsenic complexion wafers. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to let me off when it comes to showcasing some of these skincare, but because we have a big production budget, I actually managed to scour the internet and the earth and find arsenic powder, as you can see right here. And very surprisingly, this was briefly popular, and that's because it became a dying trade. And that's because of the bad effects on your health and your skin, and so this called for FDA intervention. So safe to say that arsenic powder being used on your skin to give you a more pale complexion was definitely short-lived. Which, in the grand scheme of things, I couldn't imagine that they would be too disappointed about. Also in this decade, the rise of cosmetic surgery also began after World War I, and this is due to all the advancements in medical techniques which made cosmetic surgery a lot safer than it originally was. Well, as safe as it could be at the time. Alright, so just to recap, skincare brands at the time that were popular were brands like Helena Rubinstein, and as you can imagine, she named this after herself. One of the popular trends was pale skin, and the big influencer that caused this was Coco Chanel. Now we move into the 1930s, and we can call this period the influence of Hollywood. So the influence during this time and decade was huge, like the kind you get today, but they were with movie celebs, and these included ones like Jean Harlow and also Greta Garbo. And they really captured their audience, fans, and everyone else with their clear skin and also their makeup style. We also saw some more skincare formulations from Helena Rubinstein. Also, makeup became much more readily available with products like mascara and also lipstick. And once again, Hollywood was the one who brought the main influence on this specific type and the brand as well of these makeup products. And we even got a quote back in the day from Dr. Max Factor. You probably recognize the name, and it was, "Every girl could look like a movie star with Max Factor Cosmetics." To be honest, not sure if that marketing would work now, but it definitely worked back in the day. Let's give it a try. You could look like a movie star if you used the Casey Skin C-Soother Cream. And just to recap again, the popular skincare brands were those such as Max Factor and Pond's. Then the ingredients and effects of these ingredients during this decade were things such as talcum powder, and this acted as a sort of foundation. And then you also had cold cream, which was very popular as well. Skincare owners, in terms of the people, this is when we start to see Elizabeth Arden and again Max Factor. The influencers, before the influencers, was Hollywood, which you might start to see a trend soon. And the popular trends were still pale skin, it still continued to be popular, but tan skin was on the rise. Alright, moving on, we are now in the 1940s. So following the chaos that World War II brought, shortly after came a sense of renewal and also rejuvenation. There were more advances in plastic surgery with a desire that came along with this to look like your favorite celebrity. Did they know what they started? I wonder. Oh, and Hollywood again increased the popularity of cosmetic procedure and specifically at improving one's physical appearance. Also, during this time, an actress and singer known as Rita Hayworth insured her legs for a whopping $1 million, and she was actually known as a girl with $1 million legs. Now perhaps this decade in comparison to other decades was a bit more static in terms of innovations and new skincare products being developed and included, and that was due to the war. But popular ingredients used in skincare were things such as glycerin, which is actually great, lanolin, as well as zinc oxide. Popular skincare brands, we see the brand Pond's again, as well as a new one on the list, which is Noxzema. Then you have the popular trends, which was a mix of tan skin as well as pale skin. And you're definitely going to remember these names in terms of the owners of skincare brands. We have Elizabeth Arden as well as Estee Lauder. Then 10 years later, or at least the next decade, also the last year that I have to wear this, I feel it's the most relevant, we get to the golden age of Hollywood, also known as the 1950s.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
They were setting the standard, and by they I mean the actresses and also models such as Audrey Hepburn and Marilyn Monroe, and they were really looked up to for their clear looking skin. This decade also saw a massive increase in skincare products and treatments aimed at achieving a youthful radiance. I mean, you even hear these words and terms being used in marketing nowadays, 75 years later, so I wonder if it's going to be said 75 years from now. Let's see. And in this decade, you still see similar skincare brands such as Pond's, kind of solidifying itself in these past decades, but we have a new contender, and that is oil of Olay. Ingredients during this time were definitely not vegan friendly. We have lanolin, we have mineral oil, as well as collagen, and we definitely see a decline in the pale skin look. And what rules right now is that sunbathed tanned look. And welcome to the 1960s. And this is also called the Age of Rebellion. Now, in the 1960s, you could say there was a bit of a revolution, definitely a culture shift in terms of traditional beauty and skincare, and this was challenged. At this time, more and more appearance-based products were being incorporated into a man's routine, as well as skincare products, with a heavy emphasis on grooming products. And this includes aftershave with the occasional use of, a cleanser, as well as a moisturizer. And also the hippie movement began, if you couldn't tell by my outfit. And this was influenced by models such as Twiggy, and they influenced people in the aesthetic of extreme thinness. And also during this time, in terms of skincare ingredients and products, this is probably one of the most revolutionary decades because we saw the introduction of the Retin-A formula for acne-prone skin, as well as anti-aging, and to this day, it is still one of the best skincare ingredients and products you can get, if not the best. Or if we have any hot takes and any of you disagree, or you think there's a better skincare ingredient and product other than retinol out there for acne-prone skin, anti-aging, and all sorts of other concerns, let me know in the comments. And because we saw this shift and revolution from the old norm to the new, we saw the popular trend of natural beauty come into effect, and the skincare brand that was still prominent was Estee Lauder, that is even still around today. And the models were the ones doing the heavy influencing on the public, on aesthetics, and this was, as I mentioned before, Twiggy. Then we move on to the 1970s, and it's totally possible that some of you guys watching this either would have been born in this decade, or you remember something happening in this decade, but hopefully natural does ring a bell, and you'll see why. Because in the 1970s, we now see the term natural being used in advertising, and this is a new big strategy to help people buy your products. And it was probably about time, because this new natural approach to skincare was focused on due to an increase in environmental awareness. And we're sort of seeing this nowadays, although probably a lot better than at the time. And also, fun fact, The Beauty Shop, if you're in the UK, you've definitely heard about it. If you're outside, there's a chance you may have heard about it, but they launched promoting eco-friendly as well as cruelty-free beauty. Alright, welcome to the 1980s, and this is the era of high-tech skincare. We've made it a long way from the arsenic complexion powder, as well as whatever else they were using back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. So let's have a look at what this high-tech skincare means. So, like I just said, skincare in the 1980s was all about high-tech innovation, and well, at least this is what the marketing said. From collagen injections to laser resurfacing, as well as dermabrasion, where people would literally get their skin on their face essentially sanded down with a medical grade sander, cosmetic procedures became a lot more accessible to people. And celebs like Madonna set trends with her portrayed flawless skin, and it was so good and she was so popular, in fact, that when people would look at her, they would want to take care of their own skin themselves. You could say the influencers before the internet. And during this decade, we were able to see popular brands such as Dermalogica, as well as Cetaphil, that mainly dominated the skincare product industry. And we're really starting to see the ingredients that we use nowadays, and these are ones that include vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, as well as salicylic acid. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that Kiehl's was also a skincare brand owner at the time, and their products were definitely quite popular. And then in terms of popular trends for the skin, it was definitely bronze and skin tanned for sure. Okay, I'm back. My face felt a little puffy and I just had to finish off my 1,000 crunches. But would you look at that? We are in the 1990s now, and we can call this era the age of information. So in this era, the internet became the go-to for all information, and in regards to skincare, you had the blogs, the forums, and all the beauty related posts, and that is when we all became doomed. And in these upcoming decades, you'll start to see celebrities come out with their own beauty products, and products in general, not quite Goop yet, but you will also see them capitalize on this growing, interest on anti-aging solutions. And the skincare ingredients used in this era were alpha hydroxy acids, AHAs, as well as antioxidants, and this includes vitamin C, as well as niacinamide, and a few other popular skincare ingredients that you guys would recognize. Then for the popular trends, it would be minimal makeup, and then in terms of the influencers on who was doing, the biggest impact in terms of fashion, beauty, and all sorts of things of that matter, it would be Kate Moss as well as Naomi Campbell. Okay, not many more decades to go now, only 2, and we were in the 2000s, and this is the era of celebrity skincare. I hope you guys can still take me seriously even with this chain on. Yeah, I can't take myself serious with this chain on either, but let's have a look at what the 2000s brought us in terms of culture and skincare. So we actually saw a mix between beauty, skincare, as well as culture, and that is when, stars like Jennifer Lopez as well as Beyonce set trends with their radiant looking skin. Bruh. And there goes my chain. I knew it was a rip-off when I paid $1,000 for this. And it was sort of at this period, or at least getting to that period, where social media gave a platform for celebrities as well as experts to give advice on skincare. And this was also the rise of influencer and celebrity-driven skincare brands, which promised transformative results, and these were backed by obviously the famous faces at the time. And during this time, we saw a lot of skincare brands being presented to consumers, and this is when we see obviously the bigger variety, and one of them is Murad, and this is probably one of my favorite skincare brands at the moment, but we definitely saw a lot of choice as a consumer. Then for the skincare ingredients, we started seeing retinol, obviously the classic staple for anti-aging and all sorts of other types of skin concerns. We also saw peptides, which was newly discovered or, brought into the mainstream, as well as ceramides. Then for the popular trends, it was obviously the very tan look, the suntan glow, and this was achieved either by the sun, but also definitely a mixture of sunbeds. No, God! And in terms of the skincare brands, we also saw Caudalie in the mix. And for the influencers section of this time, it would definitely have to go to the actresses, the singers, and then definitely an honorable mention would go to Kim Kardashian. And that also is the first airing of the Keeping Up with the Kardashians show.
You're a little red, Disick.
It'll turn chocolate before you know it, sweet thing.
And moving on, welcome to the 2010s, aka the era of clean skincare. Oh yeah. In the 2010s, consumers became increasingly aware of the ingredients in their skincare products, and this in return made clean skincare very popular. And here we have brands like Drunk Elephant, which have great branding by the way, and they also grew due to their, transparency and perhaps simplicity in the way they approach skincare. So overall, this era could be summed up into the sustainability and eco-conscious era of skincare, which is still around today. And like the decade before, we started to see the same skincare ingredients become popular because they were effective and perhaps affordable as well. And those were AHA, so alpha hydroxy acids, niacinamide, as well as hyaluronic acid. In terms of skincare brands, we have Glossier, then The Ordinary, and this was a massive one, as well as Sunday Riley. And for the popular trends, at least the makeup section was more of a makeup, no makeup look, whatever that means, as well as glowing skin and dewy skin as well. And on the influencer side, we started to see a lot of them hit the scene of the skincare, beauty, and makeup industry. And I'll let some of you guys decide which ones were the most popular because the chances are you probably watched them during this era. So let me know in the comments. And lastly, the moment we've all been waiting for, maybe the 2020s and beyond, although we're only 4 years in, but here it is. So we have loads of new cosmetic procedures. If you can think about it, there's probably a treatment to address it. We also have loads of skin treatments, as well as technology such as red light therapy masks for your head to stimulate hair growth, or for your face to treat a lot of different skin concerns. But what will come in the future? So due to the technological advancements in healthcare, medicine, and technology, we might see an expansion in lifespan, humans specifically, and also the youthful look for longer. More specifically, this could mean advances in regenerative medicine as well as genetic therapies, or also anti-aging interventions. This could be the future where age-related diseases are prevented or treated, and where aging is slowed, and this should all happen in our lives, so it's quite exciting to look forward to. And I also did a video on the future of skincare, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link this side. And with the 2020s being our current decade, let's have a look at some of the skincare brands that ring a bell, are on the rise, upcoming, or that you see everywhere. So we have the Inkey List, the black and white branding, affordable, simple, and effective. Then you have Dr. Jart, and that follows along the same lines as the Inkey List, as well as Casey Skin, which is showing a lot of promise and is on the rise as a popular skincare brand. And then for skincare ingredients, we'll see Bacachil, surprised I pronounced that on the first try, also CBD type skincare products, as well as adaptogens. Then for skincare trends, we obviously have, and it has to go to, the Korean and Asian beauty with their glass skin skincare routines, their essences, their ampoules, and all sorts of stuff, including toners. And on the other hand, which is still very popular, we have skincare minimalism, so using the least amount of products to give the same results, or at least similar, and still be effective. But somewhere in between, they both share one commonality, and that is routines. So with all that being said, I guess there's only one more thing to look into and ask, and that was, what was the growth of the skincare industry? How much was it worth in the 1920s? And what is it worth now? So in the 1920s, it was around 100 to 200 million, and this gradually increased. At times, there was a bigger increase, perhaps during the 70s, 80s, and also 90s. But in the 2020s, the skincare and beauty industry is estimated to be worth 40 or $50 billion. And that for you is 100 years, 10 decades of skincare. And to answer the question that I posed you guys in the beginning, I would say we're better off. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.